We are live at, yes, we are in Washington, D.C. Welcome to Let It Be Known, the flagship program for the National Newspaper Publicists Association. We're glad to have Cheryl Smith of Texas Metro News with us, as always. I know she doesn't really like getting up in the morning, but she does it for us. And of course, Dawn Montgomery, who's taller in person than I thought she was.
Oh, yay!
For growth. So check this out. So obviously we're here for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference. But just as important, tonight, and people can tune in right here, the National Newspaper Publicists Association's leadership reception and awards. And red carpet. We're gonna be doing the red carpet. Dawn, what's the red carpet attire for tonight? What you doing?
I don't even know yet. I brought a gown, but I don't know if I'm gonna wear a gown. I think it's too much.
What color?
It's black. Honey, I love
Oh,
black. So but we'll see.
All right, because you know you and I gotta stand there together. So that means
You look good. You good.
okay. That's that. I need somebody to make me look good, Cheryl.
No, look at you.
I do.
This is good all day long.
Cheryl, what you wearing, Cheryl?
I bought a number of things, but you know what? I never miss the opportunity to go shopping.
I love you already. Yes,
And I did bring the gown, and I said, will I or won't I? It's just, we have to see how we feel, because we could be walking out the door. And
Oh
turn
gosh!
around.
Oh indeed.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
And then y'all got to do the hair and
Oh,
the nails and all that.
I will get this again today.
Okay.
Because we feel like a natural woman.
Yes.
Listen to Aretha. Listen to that. So what's going on Twitter, Dawn? Dawn got some issues with Twitter.
Everything is going on, but one of the main stories that's consistently been on Twitter, thank God, is about how Brett Favre stole money in the state of Mississippi, welfare programs,
Yep.
things of that nature. So, shout out to Anna Wolf, who is from Mississippi Free Press, who has done a lot of the background work on investigating
Yep.
what was going on with the welfare programs there in the state of Mississippi. As a lot of people know, I'm from Mississippi, so this is very dear and near to my heart. I also just don't like Brett Favre, so I put that out there. So anytime that I can plug and say his name and kind of be like, y'all, don't let him get off. It's more than just Brett Favre. It's the former governor of Mississippi, Bill Bryant. It's Nancy New, a handful of other people who are actually getting off by making pleas ahead of time.
Yep.
Before they really kind of, basically take them to court for some of these crimes, because it's a crime.
It is.
And I just want to, one of the things that I have not really seen people really kind of target in this story is the lack of Southern Miss's response to some of these things, because Southern Miss benefited from this. They got a new volleyball facility. Brett Favre was actually going back to get more money for a new football facility, an indoor football practice facility. And it's just very frustrating because I'm from Hattiesburg. So to know, like, the city of Hattiesburg, like, you go to the city of Hattiesburg, our biggest thing is Southern Miss. So when you see Southern Miss, you see everything that's new there, you just don't think that there's somebody behind the scenes that is moving money where it's supposed to go, where it's supposed to benefit a lot of Black and brown communities, and giving it to someone who's a multimillionaire that doesn't even really live in the city limits of Hattiesburg.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so it's very frustrating. So that's one of the top stories.
And let's stay on that a minute, because I like that Dawn said stole. Call it what it is.
Call it what it is.
Call it
Exactly.
What it is, most definitely. And then when you consider Mississippi is having a hard time.
A very hard time.
A very hard time. And when we look at the number of HBCUs there, and we look at the folks who have come out, we look at the voting rate, there are just so many issues, the incarceration rate.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
And we need to do more as NMPA, the Black list. We need to do more. And I've been thinking about the Brett Favre and thinking about how if he were Black, and I'm tired of having those conversations about this,
because you know the answer.
Black,
you know the answer.
Yes, and he would be vilified, and so we have to elevate that story, and that is a story that, just like we talked about another story later, if no one else puts it out there, we have to keep it out there. And And I'm glad that you are passionate about it and you look at cities that I'm going to use, take this a place and see how we need to come back and we need to embrace Mississippi because
Right. Yes.
next year, National Association of Black Journalists will be going to Birmingham, Alabama. Yes, I'm so glad. And it was something that I championed and I told folks when we were in Las Vegas this year. I said, Las Vegas cares about our money. Birmingham cares about us.
Yes.
That's
Everyone
that.
from the mayor.
That's important.
This is
That's
a,
Yes.
oh God, yes. And isn't he a Morehouse man? Yes, and Birmingham suffered because of us. Selma suffered because they fought for us. And guess what? They fought, we won, sort of, and we left.
Right.
Mhm.
And the country said, and this country can be very vicious.
Right. Right.
The country, if you go back to Selma, Alabama, you will, it looks like you stayed in a time warp. The help was not there. The unemployment rate is high. You look at the literacy rate is low, and you look kind of like what you find in like Mississippi.
Right.
Various parts of Mississippi.
So I said, we need to go back there. We need to show Birmingham. We need to show Alabama some love.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited that we're going to be there. And guess what? They will appreciate us being there.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Appreciation can go a long way, and
And
some
there are
people just they tend to, something happens, like you said, you got sort of a victory of sorts, and then you forget.
Right.
It's-
We forgive
you
for
move on.
Shonda, Amelia Boynton,
And you
Brown,
give your money somewhere else.
Boynton. We give all of those people. They fought for us, and then we left and didn't funnel money back. We make excuses and say, "Oh, they're too small." You know what? When it was all we had, just like the black press, when it was all we had.
That's right. Just like the black press, there's many when they start out, it's all they got, right? And then when they fall, the black press is all they got, and that's the only time we hear from them. Y'all know who y'all are, but yeah, they know. We've done stories about it. But you know what? Before we go on, though, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't give a thought to Coolio and his family. Unfortunately, 59 years old. He was found unresponsive in the bathroom of a friend's house last night. Pronounced dead. Initial prognosis, if you will, a diagnosis is cardiac arrest. But another loss, another hip hop loss, right?
Stress, racism. We have a lot going on, and if you think it does not have an effect on you, I know if you saw the movie Sankofa, and it's been ages since I had Holly Garima come to a journalism class and speak with that. But the mother in there, when her son is giving her grief, which sons will do, and daughters will do it too. But
she's calling out her son.
She was holding, she was holding. It's like it was coming from her womb.
Right.
The pain that she was feeling. And I remember a sister from Ghana. She said during pregnancy, surgery, or whatever, anytime, women need to get away from the stresses of the world because it affects our womb, it affects the children that we bring in the world and everything. And we're dealing with a lot of stress. We're dealing with, if you look at COVID and the narrative, it is so much similar to the narrative that's going on with monkeypox because they're saying things that will make black people say, "Oh, this doesn't have anything to do with us." And by the time we get a hold of that, it does.
That it does.
To do with us.
Absolutely does.
Pandemic in our community.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a book, and I've seen people talk about the book, Body Keep Score, and it just talks about how you literally consistently, anything that's happening to you, your body is keeping score of that. Like anytime you deal with microaggressions at work and you don't reply, you don't say anything, it's holding it in. And so for black men, we know they won't talk sometimes, they won't share.
We won't cry.
Won't cry. Listen, I tell my sons, if you don't cry, it's just something going on. Like it's a healthy emotion, whether it's crying because you're upset, whether it's crying because it's joy. It's a healthy emotion to get out of your body because if you don't do something like that, eventually it will catch up with you. And yeah, thoughts and prayers for the Coolio's family.
Yeah, what a shame.
Friends and fans, because I know last night I saw just people, reminiscing about his videos, his hair, talking about his personality, how he just brought so much joy to hip hop. I saw
well, he really
Kenan and Kale on Twitter and things. It's just, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's gone. Like, so many of our young black men.
An older person said to me, Julio died. I said, Julio, who is Julio? And then it took a while for them to Julio. And I just thought about in my classes, I don't care if I have 10 students or 100 students, I get to know all my students. I usually would give them nicknames also, and I had a Coolio. And I thought about him, and I just thought about, I watched documentaries this past week and saw how Sam Cooke died.
And I just saw something with Sam Cooke. Yeah,
and I just think about so many, and I don't want to go deep on it, but there's something about white, and I say, I like wearing white and everything, but I just said, look at what cotton did to our people.
Right.
Look at what cocaine did to our people.
Yes.
And then look at what the Trumps of the world are doing to our people. It has the same pattern. It destroys our family. Yeah. It destroys the image we have of our men.
Yes.
And it's
slavery.
Yes, and
that's slavery.
That whole thing. And that is all those little things that take toll on our body and our mind.
We have rappers out here who, there's one in particular. I'm not going to say his name, but if you've been on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. You have a rapper who literally thought that racism died after MLK gave his I Have a Dream speech. Like, sorry. You even know why he even had to give that speech. You know what happened. You know who killed him. Like, we're awakened.
So
having those conversations though, to educate, to talk to people.
Yes.
I don't have the time to teach. Yes. I don't have time to add another line item to what Cheryl has to do. But I love walking into the classroom and giving them a perspective that they may not be getting anywhere. Right. And this is everyone, and usually, which we've seen, I'm glad to see an uptick in those attending HBCU.
Oh, yes.
But I'm seeing at other schools and community colleges and everything that you see an uptick in Latino. So I try to share with them and to help them. Let's have this conversation. And some of them are confused. The young brother, I asked, how do you identify? So I will know. And this person said, well, I may be white, I said, you may be, what's up with this? And so he said he was born in Colombia, but no, he was adopted by a white family, so he's white. I said, okay, we need to have a conversation. So we try to break that down so that they will understand. And that's where the education process has been, torn apart, because teachers have to worry so much about the bureaucracy that they don't get to teach. And then those who want to teach, and then people, it's a industry where people are falling into it because they don't have a job anywhere else.
Right, and don't care to actually teach with the group.
And they don't understand what is going on, and see something going on that we say, oh, let me get to know you, let me call your name, because there are some schools you go to, you already know.
Right.
So I just want y'all to know I keep sipping this because I can't drink cold coffee. My coffee has to be hot. So, and at Starbucks, when you get the coffee, it's usually really hot. And I need it to stay hot while I'm drinking it.
Okay,
just so you know.
Dawn and I
see, but as y'all getting along like this, if I just say one thing, I can make sure that y'all don't get along anymore. I can say one name.
Okay, say it.
You don't want to hear it because he's your boy.
Oh, wow. Let's go there. Yo, just take it.
Hey, look, just like a black man, want to just make sure that the black women keep fighting, right?
Yeah.
Jackson State.
I love I love Dion.
I see. There we
I
go.
love Prime.
Now I will sip.
I love what he's doing for HBCU.
I'll sit back and sip.
Nice lights in here.
And you know what? He's saying things. And I have my whole dynamics about
Is his foot okay?
Okay.
Is his foot okay, by the way? Is he walking straight?
He was, for that.
Didn't he get it amputated? Like some toes?
Some toes.
Yeah.
But I will say,
That's not attractive in a man,
Miami.
man.
Listen, I'm pretty
But
sure
he's alive.
good on that.
I was in Miami earlier this month. Even I don't remember too much because it was all a dream. But yes,
Okay.
it was all a dream because I was saying this is not happening. But when you look at what is happening, there's something to be said. Coleman Cottrell founded Proline Corporation here, all of perm and all curls, all things that folks were doing. And he said he loves saying it. They keep everything else real. He said, "I'm a free nigga," and they didn't like that. And he was a Republican, but this brother said what he meant and meant what he said, and that is what we're getting from Deion Sanders. And I wish more people would speak up and speak out. I'm not talking about what is that in his personal life.
So somebody said, and I'm gonna quote. I'm gonna give you a direct quote. 1 in 20 things that he says is true.
1 in 20 things.
1 out of 20 things. Okay, go break it down. So, even though I work in sports media, so I like Prime. Okay, Prime. But as far as I'm concerned, I feel like a lot of times when he is speaking out because he has the freedom to speak, there are some things he should watch what he's saying. Not necessarily the delivery because he's gonna always be him.
Yeah, he's not Herschel Walker.
I'm not. I'll take Dion over here. Thank you. Okay. But my thing is there are a lot of things that he does create conversations around, and the conversations aren't necessarily moving things forward. Some things.
Okay.
Now, in the majority, when he's like, he's going to do what he's doing at Jackson State, he's going to, help encourage other HBCUs to kind of move out of, the conferences and go bigger, think bigger, and all the things. There are other HBCUs that have done that. So why not partner with them and have those conversations on how they got to the decision of, okay, it's time for us to move on.
So you're talking about like from Tennessee State?
Yeah, but like, North Carolina A&T. Like they came out of their conference and went to Sun Belt. That's understandable. They had won the Celebration Bowl so many times. They had probably reached so many goals and, collected checks to do whatever they needed to do on their campuses. But to not dismiss, what some of the other HBCUs aren't capable of doing quite yet. Everybody doesn't have to be on Sanders. So the fact is that unless he's going to do what he needs to do at Jackson State, leave Jackson State, pick another HBCU to go there and do the thing, and blah, blah, blah. There's got to be some way of him working with like his staff of coaches to say, hey, if we're building this over here, then I eventually want you to get hired over here at Prairie View.
Okay.
I want
do we
you to
know
get
that
hired
those
over here.
conversations are not being held?
Yes.
You say they're not being held?
Yes.
Okay.
And it should those are the
I'm talking about the one with his coaches.
Well, no, don't know that. But I know that if he could redirect some of that energy towards
and to that I say, as we're all journalists,
yes,
we know that every story doesn't make it to our
that is true.
Right. And I will say this, that folks will say, well, I don't agree with everything he says. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm Cheryl Smith, and sometimes I'm probably going to go back to my hotel room and say, I don't agree with what I just said about something because I have more to go on. But people will say, Stacey is kind of quiet. We're not hearing from him. No, when the media wants to run to you, they run to you.
That's
and they will put that narrative out there.
And I've seen that numerous of times with him where they picked a soundbite. And I've always advocated for him. Now, I'll give him that. Like, if you check my Twitter feed, there are times where I'm
check her Twitter feed, Cheryl. Her Twitter feed is off the handle.
Okay. You picked the one thing that you knew was going to really get under some people's skin. But overall, I just feel like there's this I just want to see more of a responsibility from him.
And there has to be more responsibility from us because he is not controlling that narrative that puts one-sided narratives out there. And I hear what you're saying, and I'm looking
And
at
I
all
agree with
the
you on that point.
all
I
the
agree with you. I agree with you. Yes,
all,
you're
all
right.
the coaches out there and everything. I know Hugh Jackson said he was going to do things at a Grambling,
Right.
and you look at Willie Simmons and FAMU. You look at all the schools, and I'm excited that we're looking at Grambling has and there are like maybe 4 HBCUs that have females as band directors. And that's something we have to highlight. So a shout out to those women and Dr. Nicole Roebuck there because we should be doing that. I mean, just think about it, man. If you're on social media, every time we do a top 5, we say, name your top 5. Do you realize if you're talking about a sport, if you're talking about hip hop, there's never a woman in there. And this is coming from us. So I say, so they're talking about sports, and I'm just talking about Lucia Harris, or I'm talking about some of the women who are athletes, and we're talking about rappers, and I say, I'm always going to have Chuck D as one of my favorite rappers.
Chuck, yep,
and
the man.
Then I'm going to say, what about MC Light?
Oh,
But
her hair is always lame.
And then
Is that what you go by? Just
Yeah.
back in the day.
When I met her, I was like, girl, who does your hair? Like, that was the first thing I said. Like, I was amazed at how beautiful she was and how well put together she is. Every time you see her, she just, oh my God, why are you that beautiful?
But see, and I'm thinking about us heading for self-destruction because there is so much on us that we domestic violence, we take it to another level because I'd rather have a critical conversation and I'm going to make a commitment to go back and make sure I do more with putting in Brett Favre because I've been taking such a knee. I know what's going on. We need to push it out there more.
One of the things that you have made a point of doing in your newspapers, we talked about this before, and most papers, just about most media outlets, or all media outlets except for the Texas Metro News, you continually bring to the fore the Brittney Griner situation.
And I appreciate you for that because I'm so worried about that woman. It's very frustrating, and I think one of the things that kind of blew up on Twitter over the past couple of days is her former coach that was at Baylor. She's at LSU now. I'm not going to bash LSU. I know that LSU is going to be going through some things with their athletic program because of their former football coach, but she was asked a question, would she like to comment on what's happening with Brittney Griner? And it was not just her comment of saying no comment or dismissing it, but it was how she said it, how she looked at the reporter. It was almost as if, how dare you ask me something like that? No, and that person had every right to ask you something like that because she brought you a national championship. She did a whole lot for your career that you are thriving and enjoying at this point in your life to where she doesn't have any more freedoms. Like, she's behind bars. And it took the current coach at Baylor where she even elaborated on how she felt what was going on with Brittney Griner, which kind of took it to a whole nother level. But just something as simple as saying, my prayers are with her. Like something as simple as saying, I'm thinking of her and her family.
She refused.
Something as simple as, I plan on reaching out to talk to her wife and bringing her people in and letting them know, like, you can come to Baylor, you can come home, like, you can be around people who love her because we're going to find ways to recognize her throughout the season. That's appreciation.
Right.
And it's also recognizing someone that's human who is going through something
to do
that is not right.
Right.
So for her former coach, Kim, I don't never need to see her.
Well, and you know what? And it needs to send a signal because that's one thing. I was talking with the band director at Grambling, and she was talking about, and it's something Grambling has a history, a tradition dating back to Coach Rob of wanting their athletes to be more than just athletes.
I love that.
Yes, and they're building their character and everything. And you look at if I had a child and people would say whatever they want to, they would. I don't care if that coach wanted my child or not. That my child would not go with that coach is, because that coach is showing you they don't care about you.
Well, and that's
You
it,
keep
right?
telling
When they
me.
show you,
Yeah.
That first time, that's it.
Right.
You don't need nothing else. A lot of her former players were coming out saying, you know, players pay attention to what these coaches are saying
Yes.
and what they're doing because their actions match what they're saying. You know, a lot of times people say, let me see what you're doing. I'm not going to listen to what you say. But in a lot of situations, and I think it's because I'm also a journalist, I'm listening to what you're saying first.
Right.
And I'm still going to pay attention to your actions. But if you done said something out of the way, I'm not trying to deal with you, or I'm not trying to allow my child to be under you because it's not right. Because yet again, it also proves just how around women's basketball, let's talk about that. Around women's basketball, Black women aren't fairly. You know what I'm saying? I say that just because, like, in general, like, we've had, you know, Asia Wilson, who has led the Aces and all of that, and they have won a championship. But the talk of her possibly being the WNBA, like the face of the WNBA, people shot that down immediately. But then when Sue Bird, you know, sits up here and she's retiring, like, no disrespect to her and what she has done. I was so sick of hearing about that woman when you had another Black woman that was retiring this season. You had other people who were doing things throughout the season. I don't want to hear nothing else about Sue Bird. You know what I'm saying? So in general, if you're dealing with a college basketball coach who is saying that she's not going to say anything about her former player, who is being used, like we have consistently said on the show, as a pawn in a political situation over there. And then most people were defending this coach, saying, well, the government said, White House said, you need to stop talking about it so that they can deal with negotiations. Listen,
You believe that crap.
that's not it. You know what I'm saying? Because we can still say what we need to say in support of her.
Yeah.
You can still raise awareness of what's happening.
well, like you said,
They didn't say anything about Trump says whatever he wants to, and those same critics do not say.
but like
Tony.
Dawn said, what would have been the harm of her saying, "My thoughts are with her.
Exactly.
My thoughts are with her family."
My thoughts
Oh,
and
it's a
prayers
very
are-
unfortunate situation.
Oh, it's an
You know,
unfortunate.
there's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that she could have said, and if she is not ready, and I didn't hear her make the comment, but this brings me back to FAMU and Jackson State were playing last year, and I'm sitting up there. FAMU was upset because 7-6 loss, and so one of the FAMU players softball question was thrown this way, and he said no comment. I wanted to get up and go and choke him. And so then what I did see, and Dion is getting those young men.
Now, I mean that. I love seeing them when they show up on media stuff, media day, or even interviews, because them boys be on point. Now, I'm going to give them that, honey.
Yeah, and that is so important. But I have talked to like the president of Texas Southern and other universities and said, you know, folks talk about media training for athletes, but I think across the board, because now you have more and more folks getting into getting a microphone put in their face.
Yeah.
And so I think that whether it's business, whatever the major, someone may ask you, how do you feel about CBD, or you know, just a number of things, your agricultural schools, what's going on. You need to be able. No comment is not the answer.
Right.
Yeah.
And what that says is when a microphone is put in front of you and someone does ask you a question, you know how to be prepared for something like that. Like, I think I talk about this on my timeline a lot, and how doing pageants early on in my life, and being active in the YPD in my church,
Okay.
and you know, doing speeches and things of that nature, that prepared me for literally somebody can ask me about anything, and I can literally carry a conversation.
So these athletes, right?
Exactly.
These athletes
And so
should
these
be prepared
athletes
for
are
that.
humans, and they have other interests that aren't necessarily basketball or football or sports.
Yep.
And if there's something that you can teach them to be able to be well versed on other things or other topics. Or
And you have to be able to accept loss, because I said I didn't go to the press conference this time because, like I said, it was all a dream. I'm like Biggie. but I said if the FAMU guys were upset at a 7-6 loss, Lord, I don't want to think about how they would act in there. If you know, whatever we went through that day in Miami.
But
you need to be
Cheryl,
prepared.
right, and that's where I was going with it. So these are world class athletes, right? They're young, impressionable. When you go into the NBA, the first thing they do, they have this seminar, and I learned about this maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Get you a.
Well, what you gonna say, Cheryl?
See,
Well, I'm just gonna say this:
We not
Dorothy
finna go
Gentry.
we not finna go there. And shout out to Dorothy because you my girl. I love you.
No, but they have
Dorothy
this-
Gentry went to the Mavs ball
Uh-huh.
a few years ago, and the only Mav with a black wife was.
She did.
was-
She there she
You
goes.
know, who do you think it was?
Y'all should see the rug. This is like,
Look.
Who was the
Who's-
Mav?
Dirk
Dirk
Nowitzki.
but see, Dirk, he kind of like too, cause
He's Bill Clinton black.
She was 10-4 rap play every game. You know somebody. You do he have a black wife. Cause ain't no white woman sitting their husband to work like that.
What was in the tinfoil though? I mean,
The dinner. It's
The
his dinner or his whatever.
I mean,
he
what
was
was he eating?
But I don't know, and I don't care because she wrapped it with love. With tinfoil, black woman
Tinfoil
put your
means-
stuff with tinfoil over. She love you. Don't sit
but
down.
what I was gonna say, yeah,
I went there, dog.
You went there. How can I
Well,
tell her not to do this?
So the NBA, when players come in, the
Mm.
rookies come in, they have a big seminar,
Mhm.
but it's mostly about protecting themselves sexually.
They don't tell them to use condoms, I think.
No, they do,
Well,
and they also
just
tell
don't-
them how to get rid of it and all that's the condom and then this and that.
Yeah.
But the point of all that is this:
Somebody ain't learning something at these symposiums. I'm trying to tell you.
They are not
That
learning
is
this.
a
They
very
but
don't
the
listen.
point,
later.
the point, Cheryl,
That lamp
the
is
point,
gorgeous.
Dawn, is that the young college kids need to be taught about how to speak to the media.
Yes.
Well, and then it goes a little bit deeper. Some of these world class athletes are top high school athletes, and if you get them in high school, they should be taught how to deal with media. You have classes
Yeah.
in certain high schools where there are students who
Communication
are
classes.
doing things, and just put them in front of the camera. Put them try these different things, and the kids aren't afraid of cameras. Okay, let's start there.
Right,
yeah,
Because kids
right.
take
Look.
selfies, they record, they do whatever.
Y'all
So
was
you
taking a
can't tell me that
selfie
they're
earlier.
shy. You know what I'm saying? So you can't tell me that they're shy. That's not it. It's just that when they do that on their own time, they know that they can be themselves. They know that it's off. Like
Right.
there's no mask that they have to have on literally to kind of hide. Okay, well, somebody might not like the fact that I like certain comics or I like blah blah blah. No, like there's a community for that. Like you don't understand. You will relate better to your fans and to people in general when they know other things about you. They ain't gotta know
Yeah.
everything. I mean, you ain't gotta be as transparent
Yeah,
as
and,
me.
and time and place
But-
for everything.
Yes.
And that's something, but guess what? The issue is in high schools or even younger, you do have the professionals who know the business, know the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you have, unfortunately, a system that does not value it as much.
Right.
And so you need to put these opportunities, you need to look at this and say, this is just like a gun.
Yeah.
And you need to know how to use it and how to use it to the best of your ability and to know when and
Yeah.
what to put on these things. I'm so glad we didn't have these when I was at
Oh, you
FAMU.
too, child.
I mean, I said, because I could have been A, B, or C, but you don't know because it ain't all over
Right.
this.
It's
It's
true.
There's
like,
no proof,
don't wait,
no
don't wait
receipts.
until these players blow up before you try to
and
put them
and
in
not
front
just
of
the
a
players,
camera.
anyone talking about anything, because when you think about athletes, who would you have considered? And I started in sports and was having a wonderful debate with folks about what was the best 70s baseball team.
Oh, who'd you pick?
Cincinnati.
Oh yeah, there was no question
Yeah,
about it.
and in fact, I actually played softball, and they called me Johnny Bench, and
They called you Johnny.
yeah. And I see, do you know Johnny
explain.
Bench?
Yes, we do, but explain.
Because Johnny Bench was a catcher, and that's the position I played.
Okay.
And you
Yes,
were
sir.
that
My
good.
sister played
Yeah, I would like to say I was as good as Johnny Bench, but
That's
and
probably the
speaking
greatest
of-
catcher of all time.
And speaking of, if you think about that team had Pete Rose on there, and you
Who I
look at
never
how
liked.
they're treating Brett Favre, and you look at how Pete Rose is.
Yeah, because
being
if they
treated.
weren't gonna let Pete Rose,
In
get
the
to
Hall
Hall
of
of Fame,
Fame.
go ahead, just go into the Hall of Fame and get that man who just I can't stand his eyebrows and how the top of his bang hangs, and move his bust out the way and take his name out and just put like an X right there.
So-
you know what I'm
so
saying?
what- what
And who did he hurt more people than Bill Cosby did?
Uh-oh.
We're not even gonna go there because
Oh,
we're
shoot.
not gonna go there. Okay, it's not. We're not gonna do that.
Okay,
So-
because that's a pretty lamp over
It
there.
is a very
It's a very
beautiful
pretty
lamp.
lamp. But
Yeah.
listen,
Very
tonight
beautiful.
we're going to be on the red carpet.
Yes.
We're gonna
Yay.
Dawn and I we're gonna interview you on the red carpet too. You gotta come to the red carpet.
I'm
so
gonna be prime time.
Oh
No,
Lord.
no.
I'm like, child.
but tonight the awardees. Let me just run down who's getting
Yes.
an award tonight. Prestigious NMPA Leadership Award is Dr. William Barber.
Wow.
Yes.
He's
yes.
getting an award alongside Attorney General Keith Ellison from Minnesota,
right.
Dr. Glenda Glover,
Yes.
Tennessee State. There you
Okay.
go.
Tennessee
And
State.
NABOB's Jim Winston is getting a leadership award as well.
Wow.
So, but
Some
the big
heavy
performance, of course, I know
He getting ready to go there.
Chrisette Michelle is the big performer.
Dawn, isn't that poster over there really?
That is a very nice poster.
Listen, she's a Grammy winner. Y'all gotta put some respect on her name.
Okay. See, Grammy, and that's the thing.
I know,
but
I want
everybody
an
has a
image
problem.
award. I want an image award.
I will say this. I love that the black press is allowing her to do this. I will say that. Because
we have
she
forgiveness,
called,
atonement.
But-
right there.
no, but-
she called a bad deal with all of that. And I get where people were coming from, but come on, to do that to a black woman, and there have been other people who have done stuff in proximity of that man. We know who I'm talking about.
So let me just,
And they
I'll
still
let you
making
continue,
money,
but give me
and
a
they're
second. Let me
still
let
doing
everybody
whatever.
know who don't know.
Right, go ahead.
She performed for Donald Trump's inauguration.
Right,
And for the most part, folks have not let her live that down
at all.
at all.
And hopefully in my
And yeah,
I
you
believe
got
in
rappers out here that
redemption.
don't want a hat and selling shoes and
Yeah, and we
trash.
and talking about running for president again, and we have to have grace, and
Yes.
but we also have to have an understanding. And I say even there have been so many times when we have been harder. There was a time when you saw a black cop and a white cop coming up, and you had maybe been speeding a little bit. You said, "Oh, thank God, it's a brother," and that brother turned out to be whiter than the white guy, and will, you got to worry about them. And I just say we have to have some grace when it comes to our people because we're
Yes.
getting enough.
I'm looking forward to her performance. I'm looking forward to the
I'm
awards.
looking forward to it too.
This is a special night, as it is every year for NMPA.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to just seeing the publishers again. It's
Oh,
always great to see
yes,
all the
yes.
publishers and Dr.
And we're
Chavis
going to be, there are thousands of people who have RSVP'd for this.
Yes.
Wow.
And I just want to give a shout out to some people. I know that our Congresswoman from Texas, Eddie Bernice Johnson, is supposed to be stopping by, and this is her last hoorah, if you will.
Wow.
And people can say, "Oh, they didn't do anything," but we hold ourselves, again, back to the Chrisette, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I'm not saying we're not supposed to, but are we giving the support that we need to get?
Support is the word, yes.
Well, let's face it. Listen, the black press has been there for everybody. 195 years. We're going to be doing a lot of celebrating tonight again. So
Yes.
be there, be on the red
Is
carpet.
there a
And you
dance
can
floor?
see it's a dance floor.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna wear my tennis
on the
shoes.
red
No.
carpet.
No.
We're going to be there at 6. The event starts at 7.
I better go get
be
ready.
there, watch right here too.
She
Get
said
ready.
she
Thank
supposed to
you
get
so
ready
much.
now.
Listen, we look forward to tonight. It's the Leadership Awards reception. Have fun. Everybody will. And thanks for joining. Let it be known. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Yay.